Our guest today is Mike Todasco. Mike is an expert in AI and innovation with a remarkable career that includes serving as the Senior Director of Innovation at PayPal. He is now a visiting fellow at San Diego University. Mike explores how AI can drive creativity and make advanced technology accessible to everyone, both in professional settings and in everyday life. So I'm pleased to have Mike join us today. Mike, welcome to the program. As I mentioned, you've had an impressive career at PayPal, managing a portfolio of over 100 patents. Can you share a little bit about your experience there and how AI may have played a role in driving innovation during your time at PayPal?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Kevin. And look, AI, or as we used to really call it, machine learning back in the day. It's only, the AI lexicon is only really caught on in the last few years. Um, but with machine learning, it was integral to PayPal as a company since, pretty much the very early days. If you think about what PayPal was trying to do, make a payment platform where, one person, another person, and you just send money between them. The hard part is actually knowing that the person on each side is the person they claim to be. And that's where fraudsters and scammers come in and so forth. And with a company that's pushing billions and now trillions of dollars a year like PayPal, it's a pretty hefty target. So being in front of the scammers was one of the things that as a company we always had to do. And using machine learning and AI tools to do that was critical because no human, no simple algorithm would be able to just look at or process, you know, billions of transactions. You need to use machine learning tools to be able to find patterns, to be able to see things that humans wouldn't have known or recognized otherwise or been able to possibly even program in. And so throughout the journey of PayPal as a company, just at least stay ahead of the bad guys. It was something that was critical to development. And it moved more and more out of just security and risk to other parts of the business during my tenure. And I'm sure now, even though I've left the company, with generative AI, it has really become much more commonplace in all companies.
All right, very good. Well, I'm curious about how that all worked. And I can hear that there is somewhat of a distinction between AI and machine learning and what we're now calling generative AI today. And there's overlaps and gray areas and it's technical. Can you describe a little bit, though, when it comes to the security and fraud prevention that you mentioned,
Mhm.
without getting too far into the weeds, how did you exactly do that? I can imagine with the huge amount of data and transactions that PayPal was managing, it would be imperative to have some sort of machine learning going on in the background to recognize potential fraud. How did that exactly work? And how do you differentiate what you were doing then, which is machine learning pre-AI hype days, to what we think of now as AI and potentially generative AI?
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you a brief version of a story we used to always tell to customers. It was of like buying a pair of boots, and that might be a normal transaction if you do a whole bunch of transactions with like a similar merchant on PayPal and so forth. But what if you're buying them and you're sending them to someone else? But what if you're actually doing that from another country? What if you're like, and just kind of layering on these exceptions to the rule, what PayPal had done and other companies like that was like using these machine learning models. It's basically try and make sense of each and every transaction in milliseconds, where it take a human a long time to. And to spoiler alert, like how this actually worked. Well, in this story, it was actually somebody buying something for their father because it was Father's Day where they're from, and they're doing a layover in an airport in Tokyo, and they're on their way to somewhere else. Again, something like that would almost immediately, 20 years ago, be flagged as fraud. I mean, it's like, this is just weird. This just doesn't look right. And you do that to the customers too much, and that makes a horrible experience for both the customers because they're not able to buy what they want, and for your merchants because they are not able to make that sale. So for a payment company, that's a big thing that you're working through. It's just trying to figure that out. Now, what's happened today with generative AI, and when I say generative AI, I do mean things like ChatGPT and Claude and Midjourney for image generation, and all of those tools that have kind of caught the public's really top of the public's mind today. what those tools are really, they're very advanced general purpose tools where you can talk to them in plain English. So you do no longer need to be a machine learning engineer, which was, back, 3, 4 years ago, the only people who got to use these world-class tools were machine learning engineers at big tech companies like PayPal or research labs and places like that. Now, anybody without any knowledge of coding can get these models to do amazing things. And that's the difference that we're seeing today. So that also permeates in a company because there weren't machine learning engineers on every team. But now, if you're in a company and say you're a small business and you want to make better ad copy, you could go to ChatGPT to do that. You could use all of these types of tools and you don't need engineers to do this coding for you because it's already there.
One of your key beliefs is that AI democratizes access to advanced technology. You were just mentioning it there. And indeed, I'm very interested in the convergence of AI and things like low code and no code techniques. Can you explain from your perspective how no code and AI, the convergence, are making innovation more accessible to a broader audience?
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. This is the most exciting to me. So my background is not as an engineer, even though I was running the innovation group in there. My background was in finance and accounting. So it's kind of a very weird person to be in this type of role. But when I started this and really seeing the benefits of generative AI with GPT-3 and started to be able to play with that tool, it was pretty amazing because I am not an engineer by trade. So I don't know how to code, but I could use these models to generate code for me. One of the things I do a lot of writing, and one of the fun things I got to do this summer was to write about all the greatest AI movies of all time. So 2001 and stories like that. For each one of those writings I did, I actually worked with an AI. It was usually Claude Sonnets, which is, I think, $20 a month from a company called Anthropic that anyone can use. And I actually had it develop a video game for me for each of these stories. So while I was actually writing something, I was actually having it take the writings and I would generate a video game with it. Very basic, Atari 2600 style video game. But within a couple hours, could generate the code, export that, publish that on GitHub, and even walk me through how to do that. And I had a working video game that anybody in the world could play. And that seems small, and it is small, but this is where we're going. Again, if you would have looked at what GPT-3, kind of the predecessor before ChatGPT, could do for writing a few years ago, there were moments of brilliance, but overall, it probably wasn't that impressive. But just kind of think these tools are growing exponentially. They're getting better exponentially. And if you could build a very simple rudimentary video game today, or whatever it is, you can have that for your small dry cleaner or whatever it might be. You're only limited by your own creativity and imagination now. And that is the really exciting thing that I see in these tools, is that it's going to unlock us where you don't need to have access to an editor anymore to write a book. You can use an AI decently well as an editor. Humans still going to be better, but not everyone has access to that. Not everyone is the ability to code or all these other things. AI and these tools for generally $20 a month completely open that up.
We are here speaking with Mike Todasco. He is an expert in AI and innovation, a former senior director of innovation at PayPal, now a visiting fellow at San Diego State University. And we're talking about how AI can drive creativity and make advanced technology accessible to everyone. Let's follow up on that idea about creativity for a moment, Mike. How do you see AI transforming the creative process in a business setting?
I would have killed to have these tools 4 years ago when I was at PayPal, when we would hold brainstorming sessions. A team would come in with a big problem that they're having, or trying to, customers really want this. How do we achieve that? To be able to just have a AI in the room, so to speak, as another voice. You could have it building off of your ideas. You could have it taking your ideas in a completely different direction. You could be doing all of these things And the AI, it never gets tired, it never gets bored, and is as dumb of an idea that you throw into it, it's a place that takes you in an entirely different direction. So, for example, one of the things I love to do with the tools, so whenever I write an article about I always have a hard time coming up, 90% of the time, have a hard time coming up with a title. What's a good, catchy title for whatever this is going to be? So I will just feed the article in there. Um, ChatGPT already knows the type of blog I have, the type of articles I've written in the past. That's all stored in its own local memory about me. And I'll say, give me 10 titles for this thing. And it'll just generate in seconds. It will generate 10 titles for me. And I'll be able to then take that and say, like, oh, okay, this is good. This is good. I'm going to combine that and I'm going to change it a little. Give me 5 more just like that. And you know what? After doing this after a few times, like, it gets me really close to that. And, if titles were my strength, maybe I wouldn't use it for that. But that's one part of writing that I'm not as good at.
Or you might
Take
use it in a
whatever it
reverse
is. Oh,
fashion.
yeah, please.
You might
Yeah.
you might put a title in and then have it suggest supportive content for that title and that notion.
Absolutely. I was demonstrating something recently where I was trying to write some related articles, unrelated to AI. So just kind of having like headlines for a bunch of articles. Put that into a custom GPT that I built, which you could do with the features on ChatGPT. And I said, and I trained him like, hey, look at McSweeney's, look at all these other humor publications. Which one of these would a title like this fit in best if I wanted to submit my work? You can do that. So if you're a freelance writer or something like that now, like that's an amazing gift that you potentially have to be able to say, hey, you're an editor at Vanity Fair. I'm trying to write this article in the Vanity Fair style. How would you critique that? Because it knows that, it understands that. Again, it's not as perfect as a human, but it's close. It might be, it's going to start to get you in the direction. And these are helpers. I mean, they're almost like interns. I would think that have a lot of different skills, a lot of different abilities. They're not quite, they're not the CEO or anything like that. And it's going to be a while before it gets to a much higher level of intelligence. But somebody who's, can do some research and all that for you, like it's really good at that. The only difference is it responds back in seconds.
Well, and some of it depends on the depth and thoughtfulness of how you use it. In a business setting, I'm still thinking of, but for example, as you're speaking, I could totally see an AI however you say it, with us in our brainstorming session. What a great brainstorming partner. In other words, getting us to spark off ideas and suggesting other ideas. And then in a decision-making setting, giving it A, B scenarios or look at this situation. Would this be a relatively good decision to move forward with? That kind of strategic design aspects of it. I can see this being a great partner to that real human endeavor.
I mean, let's take that brainstorming idea. Let's keep building on that, Kevin. I love that. So take that a step further. The capabilities in ChatGPT, the app that anybody can get on Android or iOS, that has a voice mode in there. I've used the voice mode all the time. You could just turn that on in a meeting and you could say, hey, I don't want you to interrupt until you hear the word, whatever, rutabaga or something like that. Something you're not going to, because it might interrupt otherwise if it hears a lull in the conversation. So say, hey, until you hear this word, don't say anything. I want you to transcribe everything you're hearing. I want you to also process this information as you're seeing it. So when I come back to you with a question, with an ask for further thoughts, and I say that magic word rutabaga, you're going to come in and jump into the conversation with us as part of that. Like you could do that today. And that's something where if you're in a business holding a brainstorming session and you want that second opinion, you want somebody to, be a devil's advocate, whatever role you want the AI to take, and it could take many different roles. Like they are there for you. They're there and they're willing to do whatever it is, whatever kind of role you want them to be.
That's a fantastic suggestion. I could also see that working in a Zoom call or a Zoom meeting. In fact, I could have one here. We're speaking on Zoom. I could have it up here and having it prompt me with feedback or things that I might not know that you're talking about as a super research assisted in real time. You might mention an acronym that I'm not familiar with, or I might be curious about something that you're talking about, and it's providing me that feedback and research right there in real time.
And imagine this, even like maybe you put in my bio, or Zoom already knows about me, or Google
Mm,
Meet, or any of these tools. This is what the future is going to look like. It could integrate that in there and say, hey, Kevin, Mike's talking about this. You should actually ask him about this next. It might give you suggestions for further questions to dive deeper, or it might
wow.
even give feedback to me saying, Mike, you're mumbling a lot here. You got to slow down, speak more clearly. You're saying too many ums or whatever it might be. It could actually be giving me that feedback just to me personally in real time as it listens. And look, with all these things, it's going to be a choice. Do you want it on, or do you want it off? And for me, I would love to have that. Or you can even choose the type of feedback that you want to receive as you're talking during one of these sessions. Like, that's the beauty of these. Like, the concept of GPT. So they're generally trained, they're multi-purpose tools, so that you can really do anything with it. And the beautiful thing about that is we don't even know what these tools are fully capable of. We're still figuring that out. If everyone stopped working on making the next version of GPT-5 or whatever it might be, we would still continue to see just massive gains, because we're still just figuring out, oh my gosh, I didn't know you could use the tool for that. Like, daily
Mm.
on places like Twitter, people are sharing these thoughts, and we're seeing it. It's pretty magical to see like everything that they can do.
Again, you're reemphasizing that AI democratizes access to advanced technology for everyone, both in a professional and a personal setting. Let's talk a little bit about a personal setting. Um, what about tasks for everyday life, like planning my daughter's birthday party or something like that? How do you think AI can enhance everyday tasks for normal, everyday use and non-technical users?
Yeah, I got a good one. Well, let me give you two actually, because one of them today, I was like literally just like, okay, what am I going to do for dinner? I got to take my daughter somewhere. I'm probably going to need to hit the slow cooker. Give me some options. Oh, chili's interesting. So I'm literally having this conversation with ChatGPT, and it already knows my family's preferences, like what each of us likes to eat and what it doesn't. It knows that I'm really simple, really basic. So it even says something like, it says a pound of turkey, ground turkey in there. My family likes a lot of meat, so I actually say back to it, actually, let's make it 2 pounds. How does the recipe change? What are the proportions? What everything else that changes in there? And for things like recipes, it's amazing. Like, I couldn't imagine actually just Googling a recipe or anything like that now, because even if I screwed up halfway through, I could actually talk to it and say, I just put in garlic salt instead of garlic powder or something like that. What should I do? How do I correct for that? And it'll tell you. Like, that's the beautiful thing about using the tool for that. For birthdays, just last year for my daughter's birthday, I used the tools to make a scavenger hunt for her and her friends in our neighborhood. I kind of put some landmarks in there. I developed a few different things, like, okay, I want it to rhyme. There are certain rules and parameters. And after 2 hours, it developed this whole story about this person who comes back in time. They have a something that gets a time clock that gets shattered. So I literally bought a clock on Amazon, broke it up into pieces, put the pieces all over the neighborhood, and they, as a unit, had to come together and rebuild it. And success, win, blah blah blah, all that fun stuff. And that was done like with a little bit of creativity from me, but working with ChatGPT, and then other tools, because we actually made a character. So I used Midjourney, and I used probably 11 labs to make a voice for the character. So like, the kids were literally sitting in the garage I'm in right now, watching a video of the scientist from the future telling them, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going on a mission. The kids loved it. And again, that was all off the shelf AI tools to be able to build that.
We have been speaking today with Mike Todasco. Mike is an expert in AI and innovation and a visiting fellow at San Diego State University. We've been talking about how AI can drive creativity and make advanced technology accessible to everyone. And Mike, we have reached the action item round of the program. I'm wondering if you could please provide us with three quick action items that our listeners can do to take advantage of your ideas and advice.
Absolutely. The first thing I would say is just start using one of these tools. It doesn't matter which one. ChatGPT, Claude, Meta has one, Meta.ai. Any of these are text generation tools. Just start using it. Move your defaults to that. Instead of doing a Google search, start in there, because it takes a little bit of time to work with, but it's a partner that you actually have to do. You have to go a little bit back and forth with that. Um, Two, I would say once you've started to figure out, then just figure out how to use it in your personal life. That is actually where I would use it first. How do you make your personal life easier? How do you make it for vacation planning or cooking or whatever it is in your family? Just making a schedule, all those kinds of things. Use that in your personal life. And the third thing that I would say that's the actionable step is like set up a little group of friends to just start to become familiar with this. This all feels to me, this is very much like the internet was back in 97, 98. Um, some people were using it. Most people kind of laughed about it. Like, oh, I remember my dad telling me he would never use email or anything like that. He didn't see the point. And of course, he won't get off it now. And look, this is going to become part of our lives. And it's up to all of us to use these tools to make our lives better, to make it more meaningful, to make it more useful. And the sooner you start doing that, and if you could set up a little WhatsApp group or a text messaging with a bunch of friends where you can just kind of share these things, like that is an amazing way to just start to get ahead of the curve and understand and use these tools to make a better life.
Well, Mike, it has been fantastic speaking with you today. We're almost out of time, but before I let you go, one last question.
Please.
Looking forward, what emerging trends in AI do you believe will have the most significant impact on our lives in the next 5 years?
I'd have to go to the realm of medicine. And I believe 5 years from now, to use that time frame, it will almost be considered malpractice for a doctor not to be using AI during patient visits, and just in general. It is, doctors are so overworked in our country. There's so much expected of them. They have so many patients. And on top of that, they're supposed to be able to keep up on the thousands of journal articles that come out every month. It's not possible for any human to do that. So for something like an AI assistant, I see immense benefits. And since healthcare is such a huge cost in America and many countries around the world, like we're going to get to the point where like the outcomes by using these tools, and again, they're not perfect, and that's why it's going to be in tandem with a doctor, but it's going to help doctors make more informed decisions with their patients. Like that's the one thing I'm looking forward to, and that really excites me.
That is Mike Todasco. Mike, thank you so much for being our guest today on the Digital Transformation Podcast.
Thanks, Kevin.